Hey, y'all, what is going on? It is time for Roots and Chill. Today's topic is DNA and genetic genealogy. Who some of y'all, including some of the aunties who are here with us, are probably like, we ain't talking about this today. We're going to talk about something else. Nope, we're going to be talking about genetic genealogy. I'm sorry to inform you, but we really are. Thank you all so much for joining us. Chat room has been just a rolling. I actually asked what you all have learned over the last 8 weeks because we have literally been with you for the last 2 months, the equivalent of 2 months. We've been doing these live sessions during the day. In fact, we even kind of shifted BlackProGen a little bit so then we could actually accommodate you during the day, keep you occupied, make sure you stay your tail from being out in the streets. And so I said, thanks for joining us. I said, what have you all learned over the past 8 weeks? Cecilia Matoya Charles says, I've learned so much about the Freedmen's Bureau and pension records. And I don't find it any coincidence that the National Museum of African American History and Culture actually posted about the creation of the Freedmen's Bureau today. Like they literally posted that the whole creation of what the Freedmen's Bureau was, because that's been me ringing that bell. Lord, ring that chime and bell, right? I have to channel the channel. Oh gosh, Lord, I'm see Isai Barnwell, Sweet Honey in the Rock. Couldn't think of who she was. That almost that would have driven me crazy. So yeah, Sharon Bruno, she says that she learned a lot about the Freedmen's Bureau. She was up almost all last Friday. Yes, we want you not sleeping, but we want you sleeping, but we don't want you sleeping. And everyone says they've been having a great time. It's been raining most of the morning in Memphis. It has, and I really wanted to go out and walk today to commemorate stuff for Ahmaud Arbery, but it's been raining, so I haven't been able. So we got to wait for some drive times in order for us to do that. Everyone's just here. We got somebody joining us from Gulfport, Apex, North Carolina. Girl, I don't know where that is. That sounds like we might need to take a research trip there and go through some cemeteries. What do y'all think? Should we do that? That sounds like we should do that. I don't know why. Apex just sounds fun. Like it's the apex of genealogy, right? How are you all doing? Ellen, you can go first.
I'm doing fine. It's sunny. It's cold. It's a little cool out here though, but I'll take it.
Good. True. You and New Digs. Everybody's gonna be like, where is she at? She ain't at her desk.
I know. I'm in the nursery.
Your computer
room.
Look, your computer kicked you out your office and put you in the baby room.
I know it's sad, but I got to deal with that later. But I got back up, so I'm here.
Good. Angela, how are you faring in wonderful Maryland?
I'm doing fine. A little bit rainy today. You know, I'm dying to get out in the garden and do some more things that I have to do, but doing well. Otherwise, trying to push out a second volume of my book, which I hope by the end of the month I'll be able to tell everybody about it. But anyway, staying safe here, not going too far.
Good. And so yeah, the chat room is funny. So people are saying they did get a chance to watch Amazing Grace on Hulu, which that was my suggestion, was to watch Amazing Grace on Hulu. And Marcy Von Perkins, she said, I did get a chance to see the movie. She said, was that Mick Jagger? Yes, it was Mick Jagger who came and showed up to the recording, and he was back there getting his British clap on. You know,
girl, we was cackling. I watched it the next day too.
I screamed the whole movie. Like I was screaming. Like, and the thing that really, I gotta admit, it was after 10 o'clock in my house. So Rashad he's over there. He is playing, the Xbox, and I'm in the living room, and periodically you hear me go, ah! Like I literally was doing that. Because there were so many aspects of like Black church history in that movie that I feel like if you're not Black church normed, just watch that. Like that's a great entryway, and then actually go to a Black church. Then you'll, but honey, by the time true, please add your feedback. It was
on full effect. That was Beulah all the way.
I love the fact that the church has an old Black lady's name. Beulah Baptist.
Yes, I grew up there. Yep, 93 is when I got baptized. But yeah, it brought it home. So
it did. And I was explaining to True, because she was like, there's parts missing, like when the mother fell out. Like there was a part of the movie when the woman fell out. And my favorite part is what you guys know, the Hamburglar. Remember the Hamburglar from McDonald's?
Yeah.
And that hat, the Hamburglar hat.
Yes.
This woman's wig looked like the Hamburglar's hat. and then it had a white stripe right down the center. It was very, very eccentric. And so they got to the part where the spirit was moving and she got to falling out. And the people who were filming it clearly were not Black church norms. So they didn't know what was going on. So they're like, whoa, the camera's like this. And you're like, what is going on? And then they finally catch her and she'd already hit the ground and picked up. You know, we've missed the most dramatic part of the fallout.
I know. All we saw was her on the pew.
Yeah, that's all. I mean, yeah. And she was sitting on the front and they missed it. But to me, like I said, watch it and look at it from the perspective of they couldn't release it because they didn't think they had enough footage. And that the shots that they wanted to have, this is me just being a creator, the shots that they wanted to use, they probably were mad that they didn't get them. There had to be some kind of malfunction. Because during some of the shots, you're seeing her performing and she's performing, you're watching her. And me, I'm a voyeur. I don't know about Angela or y'all. I'm watching what's going on in the background. I see people in like a tear. They're walking fast. And, you know, like, it was like, something's going on. Like, why are they moving this fast? And I think one of the cameras probably died or they had some malfunction and they just thought we can't use these shots. And now it's totally appropriate. Like, you know, there's that one shot where like the piano, that the camera's like down here and the piano, like she's sitting up here and James Cleveland throws a towel at Aretha Franklin because she's singing that good. And, I mean, just and it literally hits the camera and the average person is like, oh my gosh, we love it because that's the kind of stuff we're used to watching.
We be waiting on. I'll be glad when Twitter make a icon emoji for the white towel.
I'm like, girl, you better stop. Like that literally is what that is. So yeah, it was great. It was great. So this week, Angela, don't have no fear. We love you. DNA is here. Genetic genealogy. In fact, this weekend is Mother's Day. As always, most of the major services are offering sales. So Ancestry is $59. I think 23andMe is marked down about the same amount. You're going to find those sales all over the place. I've been getting messages from people in my own family about what should I buy? Who should I get? Blah, blah, blah. You know, I even had a friend message me talking about percentages and the fact that she had taken a test here and she took one there. The stuff didn't match up, right? You should know if you've watched the show long enough, percentages don't mean nothing to us. They don't. I mean, granted, if you don't know that maybe if you're somebody who's adopted and you have no clue, they could be informational. But for the average person who kind of knows their parent, so to speak, it should be no surprise. Each company that you test with has a different algorithm and a different chip. Yeah. And you know what? I just thought about this. I downloaded a video from Ancestry the other day that talks about their process and how they do their chips. And I was going to share it, but I didn't share, but I can because it's public. It's public. It's on there. Did you know that every company has a corporate information site where you can get the latest numbers on how many people have tested, how many records they have, all that kind of stuff. And one of the files that they have available for download talks about the DNA process. It's a little 2-minute video and it lays out what happens in their chip. They actually show what the chip looks like. So you can see what the actual chip is that they match your DNA against. So yes, we care about percentages, but we don't so much because that's not where the real power in genealogy lies. The real power lies in the DNA matching, right? So if you've only stayed on that front page of your results or your little, chart with your percentages or the little map, if you haven't gone over to the DNA matching aspect of the website, you have missed the largest, biggest part of how you could be using this in your genealogy research. Would anyone besides me like to explain why? Anyone? That's quiet.
Yeah.
True. Why do you not care about the percentages? Why is the matching better?
Why is matching better and why I don't care about the percentages? Because they're just estimates. And you just really have to go in there and look at those CMs and use that DNA painter to see, because it's all kind of scenarios. It's not just no one, how do you say that? One thing that'll fix it all. So you have to flesh out those possibilities that it could be the great niece or the first cousin of the something and do all of that. I just never got into that because they've never been for certain as it is since we've been testing. I don't know why how we got caught up in that.
Okay, yeah, because percentages, that's the thing. I mean, that was the hook when DNA first came out, right?
Okay.
It was the
Okay.
percentages. But
Mhm.
the matching is when, let's say me and let's look at all four of us. Let's say
Give,
Nika's
give
taking the
an
DNA
example.
test.
Come on.
Okay. And I see a lady with the afro puff on top of her head and a pillow with the letter K on it. She shows up top on my results. And then beneath her is a lady with a red headband smiling. She's turned like this in her picture, in her official picture. I think she might be this one. I can't remember which one I took it. So she's after, and then the next person is the person right underneath, right? So naturally, you're like, oh, these are people who are related to me. And yes, they are. The company took my DNA and they matched it against True's DNA and against Angela's DNA and against Ellen's DNA. And it determined a degree of relatedness that's measured in what's called centimorgans, or CM, not centimeters, centimorgans. And then from there, the natural aspect you want to do is try to figure out, how in the world is Nika related to a lady with roots in Alabama, another lady with roots in Arkansas, and another lady with roots in Puerto Rico? How does that happen? Right? So if we just take our four people on the panel, if I know my family history and I know my tree and I've done my due diligence with my paper research, right? If I've done that, I know, okay, Angela's got roots in Arkansas, but her people really were in the Indian Territory, which is Oklahoma, which is just across the state line. So if I'm looking at her tree and I see Fort Smith, Arkansas, I'm thinking, oh, that's just across the state line from where my folks were, my grandmother, my paternal grandmother's people were in Northeast Oklahoma. So maybe that's how me and her are related, is through my paternal grandmother. Okay, well, with True, on my dad's side, I don't have any ancestors that are from Alabama, but on my mom's side, I do, through my maternal grandmother. Her grandmother was supposed to be born in Selma. She's the only person in my family at that generation that was born in Alabama. So maybe I can look into see if me and True's match is through that grandmother, great great grandmother, who was born in Selma. With Ellen, Puerto Rico. Oh, my grandfather's side is from New Orleans. A ton of people from the Caribbean migrated into the Gulf Coast. Maybe one of my ancestors during the transatlantic slave trade was taken to the Caribbean, had a family there, and then was taken to stateside to the continental US. Or maybe someone was sold off to the continental United States and Ellen descends from the original person and I come from the person who was sold off. So you see how I just worked that out just based off of what I know in my tree, right? But if you don't know your tree and you just spit in a tube and you expect for the tree to roll out on the wall, that's not how this works. Okay. Now, here's the thing: Ellen, True, and Angela don't show up in my DNA results, but they very well could be some of the faces that I see. So you have to keep an open mind. Some of it is going to be kind of, you're going to know the folks. The majority of the time when I'm looking at people, looking with people, and they're looking at their results the first time, they recognize those first names. Almost always say, oh, that's Aunt so-and-so, that's Aunt Kizzy's son, Mark, or that's, Aunt Riri's son, Bebe, or, whoever, right? We know his name is John, but we call him Bebe, even if you look at if they have a username and they don't necessarily have like an actual name, right? You can pretty much tell. Sometimes you cannot, because you have scenarios like a pa not pa, or a ma not ma, where someone does not know that one or more of their biological parents is not who they thought they were, or if they were adopted, they may not know. So this is just the very, very basic ground level of DNA, because really we've already done a million shows on DNA. We've walked that out. I have a webinar that I taught on legacy that has a ton of people viewing it. And that's a great way to start. It really is ground level. In fact, I told Angela this. When I created the Family DNA Project webinar, I created it for her. When I went the next step for case studies in gray on legacy, I created that for Angela. That was for her. I sat and thought, how can I get Angela on the DNA bandwagon? What would be the easiest way for me to strip it down so that she could understand it? And that's how I came up with that. Now, Angela, have you watched and have you gotten anything from it?
I have not watched, and I guess I should. Um, but it's not that I'm not anti-DNA. I mean, I tested with just about all of the companies. It's just that I haven't solved any mysteries in the family, like my mother's paternal line, or I have not, what's the word I want to say? I haven't broken through any brick walls. I don't have any unknown close relatives. I haven't found all the magic that everybody else seems to be finding through DNA. That's it. It's just like, okay. And all the little nips and, the tips and tricks. Oh, okay, that's nice. But, what is what it is. And I don't want anything to distract me from the research because it is the records that tell the story. So, anyway.
Yeah, well, I think the other thing about this too is once it gets demystified, and Angela was like, "Should I even come on today? Because I don't even do DNA." And I'm like, "No, we need that because remember that episode where we were talking about the Freedmen's Bureau, and True and James were very transparent and said, "Look, I've been through the records. I'm confused. I didn't find anything. I wasn't. You know what I'm saying? We still need that levity." Granted, we are all up here. We are experts in one area or the other, but we're not experts at everything, right? They're
Right.
like, I defer to Ellen for any kind of Caribbean or Latin stuff. That's my go-to. Or if I'm trying to find a needle in a haystack that's purple, that was touched by Prince, and is only in one library on Earth, and there's going to be a link to it, Ellen Fernandez Sacco was going to find that. That's her. That's how she operates. Angela is my Flights of Fancy co-president. We go on these journeys. It's like a plane. Me and her and Shelly just hop on the wings of the plane and we just fly around and look at everything. Oh, girl, you see that? Oh, girl, what is that? And that's what we do. And that's the thing, right? So you got to lean on your people. But the one thing everyone has to realize is that DNA and genealogy, they go hand in hand with traditional paper research. And if you have not, that's the thing. Yes, you can stay out of the DNA pool, but it adds an extra layer of security on your paper research that you cannot get elsewhere. Because as Angela knows, especially in the freedmen of the 5 civilized tribes, where folks are constantly arguing blood quantums and whether or not you legitimate. And here we are, right? Angela, her folks won't even let her in. My folks barely let me in. And we're scrolling through our results and we're seeing all these bi-blood people. And we know how they relate to us. We are clear. The oral history is clear. Just like folks have this whole thought process that Black folks don't fight back. We just let people kill us, which we know is not true. These ancestors of ours spoke their truth, and it is on paper. And if the Pa was a bi-blood person, these folks were not shy to let it be known. And if they didn't say anything, the DNA is revealing all those bi-blood people. So I just have to kind of say that because for me, especially, there's certain leads right back to certain people. Me and Angela talked about this. Her ancestor slaveholder, who she verified as a slaveholder, is allegedly showing up as a potential DNA match to her. That's information she didn't have based on her paper research, right? But the proximity of a grave site of an ancestor of hers to the slaveholder's family, right? To their graves, that was a nice tip off as to maybe there was a connection, but there was no slam dunk because there was no genetic information to corroborate the likeliness of that happening. So sorry, I feel like I'm on a rant, but I feel like people
all right.
I feel like people really need to understand these things, right? You can't have one or the other. And that's another reason why early on I was a very early adopter of 23andMe. I don't even know if anybody on the panel tested. I tested way before a lot of other folks did. And
I'm 12, so I was late.
yeah, so like I tested pretty early, and now I don't use it as much because I don't have that tree. It's hard because naturally I want to see the tree. Where are the people from? Like, just like how I broke everything down, I want to see where these folks are from, right? Because then that'll help me target my research. The other thing is you got to remember, you can't just test you. Now, if you don't have any other family members that you know of that are willing to test, that's one thing. But you usually need to test more than just you so that you can separate your DNA matches into respective branches of your family. You know, even, and I love half relationships because folks go, oh, well, I only have a half sister. Yep, test them. Test your half sister.
You have
Yeah.
to have somebody else to narrow it down and separate it, you know. Even with your parents, I have 5 generations, but we still need that to say, okay, this is on that side of that side of that side, you know. I did learn that early on and quick that, okay, Andre, I need my first cousin. I need a kid from each one of the 23. And I started out with about 2 or 3 kids. And then I got my parents on board and then it went, you know, led to other things. But you do need those. You can't, it's hard to do when you just trying to compare all your matches to yourself.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah. What would you add that, Ellen, especially in a community that's as endogamous or as interrelated and
Ooh.
intermarried as Puerto Rican?
Mara, that's the
My
first person that came
histograms,
to my head.
my histogram looks like the wall behind True. That's what it looks like. That's how mixed it is. You didn't get no squares. It was just pink, the whole thing. So
God, poor Ellen. Poor
Poor
Ellen. And
third
that's the
cousin.
thing. Yeah, the chat room is, lots of people are chiming in. Yes, I use ancestry DNA matching to find my maternal grandmother's long lost family in Jackson, Tennessee. Ha, girl, you should have told me that because that's right next to where I live. Found her cousin that led me to finding a whole family we never knew existed. Exactly. Sometimes with this stuff, especially if you have a branch, like I have a branch of my family and people think, oh, because we do this, we have it all solved. Angela, whole tree worked out, ain't it, Angela? You done found all your ancestors going back to your 8th grade grandparents, huh, Angela? You done found them all, haven't you?
I saw the note without the unmuted.
Let me come off mute and say nope.
No.
But that's the thing, right? All of us we all have brick walls. We all have these things where we just can't scale. I have a great great grandmother that didn't die until 1942. She was 15 when slavery ended, and we still don't know her parents' names. The only fighting chance we have is through DNA, because I've gone through the documents. I've been to that courthouse 10 times. No, back and forth. Yeah, I know when she purchased property by herself, there was a whole program where they were giving Black women or selling land and houses to Black women in town in Lake Providence. She was one of the women that got it. Yeah, I could, she was mean as hell. She carried a cane and she was so mean till the kids were teasing her and they ran up underneath the bed and she took the cane and started jabbing them underneath the bed. And then they stole her cane so she couldn't leave. I know all those stories about her. I know who looks like her, but who are her parents? I have no idea. So the only way that I have even the slightest chance of being able to find out that information about her is through DNA. So, so I just have to kind of put that out there. And the thing is, we've been waiting for years for this. We have almost 100 people tested on just that side of the family.
Wow.
And even with that, we're still waiting for the right person on the other side to test. So then that way they might have a little bit of information, we might have a little information, and we put it together to make a long string. So let's see. DNA has helped me go back further. My research matched someone in North Carolina, and that person was able to take me back another generation. Absolutely. For me, most of my strides have been a single or more generations. Typically, at least one I've been able to get back. Let's see. Through lines has recently been helpful to me. It wasn't helpful before. Now, here's the thing about through lines on Ancestry. It takes trees that are on Ancestry. It takes your DNA. It looks at both to see if it can find ancestors, right? Now, it's only as good as the trees are. So if everybody keeps saying that James McCain Hogan is the son of Marcus Hogan, but you have not found a single piece of paper that says that Marcus is James's father, yes, the DNA is a lead, but you still should seek out that piece of paper that says that those two people are connected.
Evaluate.
What you said, evaluation, right? Found a branch of my family in Tennessee, also pull the court records to verify. Exactly. For me, it's never been the folks are, I've had one situation where the folks are literally on the same page of the census and I just did not see it, right? Like you can go by these names, just like you drive by this house every day and you notice, oh yeah, they're out there like landscaping the lawn. And then the next day, drive by the house for 364 days. On the 365th day, you recognize they got a rose bush outside. That's how it feels when you find those folks on the same census page. I was helping a lady once and she swore like Angela, I don't have no matches. I don't have nothing. She showed me her DNA results, and y'all know how I got a magic mouse, right? When I tell you I scrolled 5 times before I got to the end of her third cousins on her list. That's how many third cousins this woman had. So then she says, well, me and this woman, we've been working back and forth, and her tree and the woman's tree, her cousin's tree was great. It was a great tree, but it was wrong. How do we know it was wrong? My person I was helping, she had her research, this lady, and they just couldn't gel. It's because her cousin had crawled up the wrong tree, a woman with the same name. Right. And based on relationships, all they needed was one death certificate that told them the whole story of how they were connected. And for me, that's usually where I'm verifying the connections are with vital records. It's very rare for me that it's through a census. It's through a death certificate where there's a maiden name that was missing or something. It's through a marriage license. It's through deed records. It's hardly ever through a census. Can anyone else say that?
Well, I can say that. But where I am 2 days ago is I had a rare name come up. It was a managed kit. And then there was a third person. So they all had the same last name and they're interconnected somewhere. Well, you know how I have everybody on a spreadsheet, on the Excel sheet for the Ivories, and it's usually for the kids and Granddaddy Ike. Well, these 3 people 2 days ago, which I didn't even think of, and now I got to go back and redo some stuff. I need to start adding Granddaddy Ike's siblings, because when I went to look at the third person's tree, because the managed 2 kids had no trees, that one third person had a name, and I went and looked and I said, I seen that name somewhere. And there it was. Those Normans were right beside my Fords on a couple pages. And then I still need to confirm for 1900, because it was the 1910 is where I found her ancestor at in Jones County, Georgia. So that was like a really exciting thing for me, because we've been so focused on the 23 kids. Here I was not paying attention to Granddaddy Ike's siblings. And those 3 matches come through his sister that was born in 1850 somehow or another. So now I have to go back and look at Aunt Rosanna's 10 kids and see where that Norman came in at. But that gave me another avenue, another opening, another happy dance. So hopefully for a marriage license or a death certificate on some of those children, that's how I'm going to add up. But of course, she got my generated letter explaining who I was, who he is, and who he's about. But that opens the conversation. I'm just waiting for her to message me back. But that's like the first time in a long time that, okay, you had all this work built up, but you left out Granddaddy Ike's siblings on the Excel sheet. So now we're venturing out now. So I thought that was my big DNA thing of the week. Is
you're bringing up a good point though, because a lot of people work very linearly, research wise, right? You're just so focused on your branch and your people. With DNA, you cannot do that. When it went down that night, however it went down that night, the folks wasn't like, okay, so I'm gonna take chromosome 7 from start point 1 to 2,055,000, and then you gonna take no, that is not how that works. They didn't say, you know what, Angela, we are going to make sure that you have all of the deposits of Cephas pass in your on chromosome 25, and that's not how this worked. It's like I always tell people, it's like going to the bar. We all 4 of us order different drinks. We could all order the same drink, but my mint julep might not be exactly the same as True's, Angela's, or Ellen's. That's how. And so when you focus just on direct lines with genetic genealogy, there's always going to be, what's her name, True? You said, what's Ike's sister's name?
That was his sister, Rosanna. And
there's going to always be a Rosanna. That's what we're going to call it. If you work on direct lines, you're going to always have a Rosanna. She going to pop up, hey girl. And you're going to be like, who is that? I've been sitting here the whole time. You didn't see me? That's how I feel like they talk to us in our results. Like, oh, wow, I didn't even think about, there go Rosanna. Use
And
that as
she's
your
the same
lexicon.
person that I found last year, finally through Ham Trick Detroit, that I went and did a reverse genealogy and
Genealogy.
found one of the children that had her and her husband Charles Ford on the death certificate. So how'd they get from Alabama to Detroit where they were? Why did they leave Granddaddy Ike and them? Because they went over to Georgia, and then from Georgia they went to wherever. And like I said, this son had died before Granddaddy Ike. He died his nephew died. So I think I mentioned that, but that's that same line that, okay, sometimes I'll take the focus, and I didn't realize that now I'm starting to get those matches from the siblings when all I was worried about was him, the parents, and the 23 kids, and connecting us through that way. Now I have to start paying attention to them siblings because they're
Look.
coming in from over there now.
Well, and here's the thing. These folks might not know that they have an uncle that had 23 kids. They're just seeing all these people from Midway, Alabama, and they don't know, right? Like they're like,
but True was glad to let them know.
that's what I'm saying. But the thing is, when you are empowered with the information, right, you might be that, just how I'm waiting for someone else to show up with the right cocktail of DNA to help me with Grandma Alice. I may be that person for someone else.
Right.
So as judgy as we get, let's call ourselves out about how judgy we are about people not having trees, or the tree is halfway done, or one of my personal favorites, they got the same ancestor added 75 times on one tree, and you're like, which one is right? I don't know. There's 55 Hercules Johnsons. You know, don't be judgy. They might not know how to use the system.
Not yet.
Not yet.
Yeah,
With 3 people, the other 2 matches had none, but all I saw was a name up there. I said, let me go see what I can see. And there it was, right there in Troup County, Georgia.
Exactly. So that's the thing. People are in the chat room are folks are saying,
I can't see because I'm
Tierra says, Tierra says the 1890 census ruined my life. I have a third great grandmother who had 10 children that died between 1880 and 1899. Look, I don't want to hear nothing. I got great grandparents born that were on that census that I have only documented as teenagers in 1900. So trust me, everyone understands. But in the words of the illustrious Shelley Murphy, okay, in the words of the illustrious Shelley Murphy, who was also a co-president of the Flights of Fancy organization, you can fill out your own 1890 census based on the details you gather about the people who were supposed to be on it. In fact, the Census Bureau gives you a free form for you to just fill out. It's blank. Make copies. Right now, granted, exactly. Now, granted, if ink is in shortage supply. I had to get some from Germany today from my cousin. But still, if you have ink, or even do a form, make it a form and fill it out based on the information you have. And here, that's an extra great tip, because you might not have searched for certain columns or certain categories of information that's on that census. Now, granted, when we were doing the whole census series, I was crying. I was like, why don't we have this one? I'm so sad. But we could literally go back and fill it in. And Dante Eubanks is acting up in the chat room. I just want y'all to know, Angela, I'm telling on him. And he said that through lines, sometimes it's like his kids, you know, sometimes they do lie.
Yeah.
It's just like listening to my children, sometimes they do lie. And so
the ones I love that are 200 years old and they're private.
Oh my, I know. Or my personal favorite, when a woman gives birth to a child 20 years after she died. Love those. Right.
Yeah.
It's my personal favorite. Yeah. So people are asking about different methods. You have to do what works for you, right? You have to use the method that works for you. I have my method that works for me. Denise Muhammad quoted me in the chat room talking about bake the cake. That's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm saying. Bake the cake. Sometimes you got to make a cake you don't want to eat, or you're allergic to, or that you have no taste for. And that's a lot of this with genetic genealogy is you having to do that. Shelley said, I'm telling her secrets, talking about her 1890 census. I mean, you know, and so, yeah, there's a lot of different strategies. Everyone is going to approach this differently, but don't assume that everybody is into this for genealogical reasons. Some people just want to take the test, get the percentages, and that's it.
Yeah, that's
it. Now, here's the thing. How good of a genealogical ambassador are you in your messaging to even get the people to want to respond to you? I mean, because think about it. If you got the message you sent to people.
I don't know. I think mine is like I got cookies and cake in mine. So
Me too. That's why I'm like, hey,
I
how are
had
you?
been
Blah,
dressing
blah.
it up from the beginning and it just stuck. And I think, some people are just, well, how much do I say? Or, give them that. It's just like a bait. It's just like a fish on a hook. Give them enough to, you'll know it. But yeah, the cookies and the cake.
Yeah, there's a comment.
Better.
Agree. You need to be offering something up. There's a comment in the chat room. Angela, I see you responded to it. I have about 3,000 plus trees, 3,000 trees plus the families who were enslaved by the same slaveholder. This is something you've heard us talk about ad nauseum on this series, is doing community research. And here's the thing, you might make it further in your genetic genealogy if you research the community. Who your folks living by your folks. If we go back to my example, let's say I look at Angela's tree. Initially, it says Arkansas, but then when I dig down deeper, it says Scullyville, Oklahoma. Wait a minute, that's in the Choctaw, but that's near the Cherokee Nation. That's right up against it. Oh, so maybe one of my Cherokee folks intermarried with one of her Choctaw people, right? But you don't know that unless you have conversations. And I even sometimes too, I have to get on myself because I naturally, a wall goes up for me when I see a locked tree. I go, I'm going to stay away. But we should stop looking at it from that perspective. Some people are like, sure, here you go. And they send you access to it, right? So I think we just need to be careful with that, and assuming that folks don't want to be contacted because their tree is private. No, they might just don't want people stealing information off of it. And to me, it depends on what stealing is. What is stealing in genealogy? Like, I mean, in terms of a tree, what is that when we all own the information?
Right. But we just get picky and petty like that.
We do.
Because roots will get petty every now and then, but I keep it moving.
Well, but I see, for me, like when folks talk about the different projects I'm working on, when I consider something to be proprietary, like my Trash 250 stuff, that is proprietary because that is bridging a number of sources. It's money, it's stuff. I get that part, but it's our history, right? So how can I say I own the Atlas family history? I can't say that I own that. Everyone in that book owns that. Now, granted, I did the work, but I can't say that I own that.
And I'm like that with the ivories too. It's all of ours. It's shared, even though I feel like I'm doing the work, but they can all do what they have to do with it individually because there's too many of Granddaddy Ike's descendants that we all can't just one person, claim the history, but.
Yeah, there's a lot of folks. There's chat on the chat room. Something Tierra brings up that's another one of my favorites. So after the woman giving birth post-mortem, that's one of my personal favorites. Are the pictures of people when cameras didn't exist?
Are they who are they supposed to be? Exactly.
Cameras did not exist, but you have a picture. Another one of my personal favorites. So let's see. Finding DNA matches who want to see their matches, but they don't want people to see them. I've explained it doesn't work that way. Oh, that's funny.
Do your due diligence.
You better opt yourself out of being in matching. Don't get mad. And so, and Bernice's have people, that to take information that's all wrong. I'll never forget, like when I first started getting into genetic genealogy, there was somebody who was kind of an overzealous genetic genealogist and was like, well, I'm going to build you a tree. And I was like, okay. And they thought that they could build my family tree. And I was like, why do you have me in Alabama when 3 of my 4 grandparents are from the state of Louisiana? Had my grandparents in Alabama. I was like, where's New Orleans? Where's Veneta? Oklahoma? Where's Lake Providence, Louisiana? Like what? Like that's the danger. If a person is not a good genealogist, God help them on genetic genealogy. Because they're gonna make some inferences and jumps and leaps that even Usain Bolt wouldn't do.
The rabbit hole.
Yeah, it's a lot of rabbit holes. Anything you guys wanna add to the conversation? Angela, being the auntie, the elder statesman here who comes from the traditional world and has moved into genetic genealogy, albeit somewhat unwillingly, but you have jumped into the pool. It's warm. There is a towel available for you when you jump out. What would you
I'm
like
not
to
in
add
the pool. I'm just dangling my feet and about to get out.
All right.
But you got your suit on, Angela. Your suit is on, and I mean,
Feet are dangling. That's it.
That's
I'm
enough.
not getting in. I have research to do.
she said I've recently. Well, and you know what? That's the other thing. A lot of folks, you have to learn when to pull back on the genetic genealogy and focus on the records, because
Mhm.
DNA can suck you in, and you'll stay on DNA and you won't move back to the records when you can't be an effective researcher in both unless you can do both. You can pivot between both worlds. Folks in the chat room are laughing at you, Angela. I just want you to know that. They said you got your suit on, you just put your toe in. And I want y'all to know, Angela just got her hair done. So her mama says she can't get in the pool because she gonna mess up her hair. Angela said no, she's natural and her hair is not straight, so she can go whatever she feels like it. I love it. I love that she's obstinate about it. She's giving me access to her results so I can look through and see if I see any funny business. And I don't see funny business. I see actually really good matches that she has. It's just that it's not a lot of folks with trees. And some of these folks she probably already knows. Because they're coming up with some of the names that I remember her mentioning. So if you have a lot of folks that are like that,
might work as well.
Yeah, I was about to say use the grouping that they have on Ancestry and try to work within the system on 23andMe or start a spreadsheet. We talked about this before, where you're grouping your matches based on who in your family is tested and who you have in common with people.
A majority of the matches, I know who they are in terms of the third cousins. This one third cousin, I have no idea who he is. Nice young looking white guy, I have no idea who he is, and that's okay. And the rest of them are fourth and higher. The rest who are third, I know who they all are. I know how we connect. No new revelations. When you have thousands, or I'll say hundreds, of fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth, and on to infinity matches, you're not going to figure that out. So you can't stress over it. You got to go back and do your research and find some stories, because the stories are in the records. Done.
We'll talk about that fifth to sixth cousin, the Hoover line from PA to Indiana, Ohio to Texas, Nika.
Oh my gosh.
2012, what, a year ago? When me and James finally figured out that's why we're fourth cousins, because the matches, the clusters trickled in. It took all that time. But that'll be a blog another day.
I was about to say, I mean, that's the thing. The DNA is a marathon, not a sprint, just like genealogy.
It took
and
all these years.
and some of it you will not get answers to until access improves. And we just really have to stress that. Something I wanted to bring up too, because I just got I can't even believe this. Somebody post people on Twitter just be doing the most. This is totally a sidebar. Someone said that they listed the top 5 cities that were overhyped to go and visit, and they had the nerve to put New Orleans on that list. And I cursed them and said, I hope you get ratioed to death over this. I was like, don't you ever say that. Just on food and music alone, I don't want to hear. And they try to compare New Orleans to Baltimore. Now, Angela, I love y'all, but New Orleans ain't Baltimore. New Orleans is not Baltimore. And they put Charlotte on the same list. How could you even put New Orleans and Charlotte on the same list with Baltimore? Like, why? I don't understand that. Okay, so going back to genetic genealogy, one of the sources that I use a lot, especially if you have a DNA match who does not have a tree or has a little bit of a tree and you kind of want to bolster what they have so that you can try to figure out how folks are related, is this newspapers.com obituary index, okay, going from 1800 to current. I just want to give you guys statistics on how many records are in this collection and the reason why this is important for genealogy. 50 million new records have been added to that recently, just this year. They're surpassing 300 million for the world's largest digital archive of searchable online obituaries and death announcements. 300 million. Right. Okay. Over 800 million names are in this collection. Now, the reason why I'm drawing your attention to it is because you know how we are. We got to tell the people that the person died. And we got to say, we may not have enough space for they confess to hope in Christ at an early age in the newspaper because it's the space is at a premium right now. But you will have descendants. And your matches may be among those descendants' names. And so I just want to put that out there because that's probably one of the main tools I use to try and help get folks back further are those newspaper obituaries that are on newspapers.com. The index is on Ancestry, but the actual obituaries are on newspapers. And then Genealogy Bank as well for newspaper obituaries.
I don't use that
ones.
enough. Ooh.
Yeah, girl,
my 2 years almost up and out. Woo! Yeah. Let me take a trip over there today.
I was about to say, you know, if you've heard me clanging that chiming bell the whole time, it's been about newspapers and it's been about the Freedmen's Bureau for these last 8 weeks because people just don't pay enough attention to those things. Checking in, James is in here talking about extraterrestrials. Lord, he says
on task.
He believes his brother's test will prove that he's an extraterrestrial. That would mean that you are too, James, because you guys have the same parents.
Exactly.
And so, yeah, so people are saying they built a locked tree based on obituaries. And I think that's a good, until you, sometimes I think having a private tree until you vet things out, that's, to me, I think that's a good policy to have. And so, yeah, anything to add up? How is it going? Everyone, just how's the 8 weeks been? Are there any memories that you have of us deciding that we were going to jump into the midday streaming pool here at BlackProGen Live? Nothing to add? Did you have a favorite week? Something we talked about?
Oh, I think that one where I'd be dismissing the Southern claims and then I'll find the stuff on the good loads. That was so exciting. And now it's like, okay, I got a taste for this. I'm going to keep, this is going to be a source for me now because I think it just clicked with me that week that, you know, browsing and just getting to know what was going on in that town at the time around your relatives, even if I'm not seeing my own at the moment, that's what it's all about. So I think that one touched me the most. I don't know if that was 9 or 7 or it was somewhere in there, but yeah, that Southern Claims Commission episode. So I think this has been a good experience and I've enjoyed it. I'm glad that, you know, we were able to just kind of like give you a little comfort and something fun to do once a week while we're all quarantining and still want you to be safe out there. And because I know a lot of states are opening up, but
including mine.
But that was mine.
Okay. Angela, Ellen, what would you guys say was your favorite part?
Bureau for sure. Freedmen's Bureau for sure, because it's such a massive record set, and I really appreciated that little bit of hand holding that you did, and being able to dig into that and know where to go. It's like it made all the difference, you know.
I agree. Freedmen's Bureau for me. I continually find
practice.
Unexpected things in that record set. Record Group 105, which it's sometimes called, and I find that to be one of the most unexplored record sets because such a small fraction of it is known to the public. So that is always going to be a favorite topic. And I think in terms of this series, I think that was probably a very, very useful, even for me, just getting some other ideas. I need to go and look at something else. And look for something else. So it's
and I will add that you got your little side newspapers.com training during Roots and Chill.
Absolutely. And oh my gosh, did you share that in another session? Your little trick that you shared?
Yeah, my little trick. I'm trying to think if I did. I talked about it during my legacy presentation.
Oh, you're right.
But yeah, Angela, I've got Angela got all of her life on newspapers.com.
I love it. Well, actually, I'm using that little trick on other sites too.
I was there that one. I forgot.
You were there. I was giving some tips away. I was
shocked. We was like, wait a minute.
Yeah. And there's an interesting conversation in the chat room breaking down. I'll circle back with my favorite stuff just about death certificates and their accuracy. And I have to agree, right? Vital records are only as good as not just the person who provided the information, but who took the information down. You have to remember, especially being in areas that were the Jim Crow South, a lot of times I feel like some of these folks were like, you know what, get out of here because we don't care. Like by law, we have to record this, but I don't care. right? So they took down, you know, the clerk may have said, you have to get these 4 fields: the name, the death date, the place of birth, and that's it. And so sometimes you will see that's why you only got that. And the informant knew the information because that was the parent or the spouse of the person that died, right? So keep that in mind, you know, when we get really critical of, well, the informant, I can't believe. My prime example for this is my great-grandmother. The informant is her husband, her great-grandfather, or my great-grandfather. He knew both of her parents. He knew their names, but it said, don't know. What do you mean? You know her mama. She's living right there in the house with you. So how can you tell me he didn't know his mother-in-law's name when she was alive in the flesh with him, living with him? So so just kind of temper your expectations. And as a rule of thumb, I think we all use this. If there's information that's on there, try to corroborate it with 3, you know, have the rule of 3. We all pretty much use that. Find 3 pieces that support or refute whatever your argument is in genealogy, right? Like that's just been our kind of rule of thumb. So, you know, that's the thing. I mean, even my own marriage license got the wrong, I said we got married in the wrong county. It was the wrong county. Palo Alto is not, it's not San Mateo County. But still, right? Anyone can make a mistake. So just think about that. So yeah. I'm trying to think. It's just been interesting this whole time. Just diving into things. Folks there's been a lot of, oh my gosh, I didn't know that existed. You know, we had a comment today. Someone didn't know about Genealogy Bank. I hope you stay up all night. That's always my hope and my plans. I hope you stay up and you don't go to sleep all night long.
In the world of hurt.
Yeah, you're gonna be in the world of hurt. Genealogy Bank is, I would say, with newspapers.com, those are like the top 2 newspapers or periodical sites. So you guys should have a plan. I mean, even if you didn't follow along every single week, you now have a plan of attack going forward, right? After 8 weeks of being in shelter in place, joining us every week for Roots and Chill, we're going to be heading back to our regularly scheduled programming, which means that you'll be getting an episode of BlackProGen Live on Tuesday nights, as well as a episode of History Unscripted, which we just filmed one of those the other day, and it is really, really good.
This one gonna be juicy, y'all.
It is gonna be juicy. It's gonna be a good juicy. It's not gonna be like the last one was very emotional. This one is not as emotional, heavy emotional. But it was a very good discussion. So look out for that. We've got a live show coming up on Tuesday. We're going to be talking about the 1920 and 1930 census. And we did a deep dive. We're really excited to talk to you guys about that. We've got a Twitter chat coming up. Let's see, that is on May 19th. We're going to be talking about Blackish and Mixedish, those 2 shows from a genealogy perspective. If you missed the conversation about Daughters of the Dust the other night, be sure to hop on Twitter, follow Crew Chat, so then that way you can see what was going on in the discussion. My favorite part of Crew Chat the other night was the question we asked for people to take a picture of their heirlooms that they had that were their ancestors' heirlooms. I loved seeing what people had. One person had a gas mask that their grandfather had in World War II. Wow. Yeah, like I put the camera that my great grandparents had. True had a whole wall of stuff, and then there was a clock. Who had the clock? I can't remember.
Oh, Denise.
It was like a horse-drawn. It was like a horse-drawn carriage, and it went to a clock. Yeah, like I love that interactive part.
The teacup lady.
Yes, there was somebody had a whole bureau of teacups. Yes, so I love that. Lord, oh yeah, Carmelita said the wife filling out the death certificate after she murdered her husband. Lord, that is true. But definitely keep plugging along. Right. If you made an inroads, or if there's something you learned about, just keep going through those records. And
on our Facebook page.
And we always want to know if we can find, if we've helped you in any way. That lets us know that the effort that we're putting forth is doing what it needs to do. Just want to do a last announcement. The Midwest African American Genealogy Institute, also known as Maggie. I don't know why we haven't really talked about it on here. I guess I just forget, but it's okay. Maggie is virtual this year, meaning that it's going to be held online. That means that you get 3 jam-packed days of 12 classes based on tracks that are specific to your needs. There is fundamentals and strategies. There is a whole track on slavery and researching your enslaved ancestors. We've got 2 DNA tracks, a beginner and an intermediate and advanced DNA track. We've got a post-emancipation era research track. And then there's also African Native genealogy as a track. You get 12 classes. You get 4 classes a day in a virtual environment with the top tier speakers. I'm telling you guys, other folks attempt to do what Maggie does. It does not do it. I've been in this too long. And trust me, I know I have been to a number of conferences and a number of events. And this is not a conference. You will be learning. You will have homework. You will have assignments. You will get to meet with people. You will have breakout sessions and your little Zoom panels and whatnot, where you got to meet with your classmates and figure out what you're going to do. Please, 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 please. True, you done been there twice.
Yes, I am, and I'm an alumni now.
Right?
But
Maggie
it's the most comfortable learning environment. I can't say enough. I mean, those breakout sessions, you just let your hair out. You don't got to worry about you're gonna get your edges snatched, but
you sure are. You're gonna
get it
together. But here's the thing. I think the main thing that Maggie does, is it not only gives you the tools you need, but it also affirms you as an African American researcher or person focused on researching African American people. We don't have a lot of places that give us affirmation, which is why I think a lot of people watch what we do, is because they want someone to say, yes, you are doing it right. Or maybe you should think about this, or, oh no, baby, no, don't do that. Right? We need that. And so that's what Maggie exists for. And so I highly, highly suggest everyone watching, if you have followed us, if you have picked up anything from any of the sessions we have done, over 111 shows, these 8 weeks of Roots and Chill, every Twitter chat, if you've asked us questions, anything we posted on our page, if you've picked up anything from us, you should seriously consider participating in Maggie. Now, there's a member rate and there's a regular rate. Registration is closing on June 30th. You'll be having stuff that you get a whole syllabus. This is not the hood conference. We ain't meeting in the backyard with a paper plate and some paper towels and whatnot. That's not how we do this. This is professional. It is high grade. You will learn and you will be challenged. Angela, as the coordinator, is there anything you would like to say, or have I said enough for you?
I think you have summed it up quite well. For those who are interested, go to MaggieInstitute.org, select the tracks, take a look at them. Depending upon whatever level you may be in your research, take a look. I think you may be pleasantly surprised, and all these will be delivered to you virtually. So you can attend Maggie even in your pajamas.
What you said, you don't have to change. Now make sure you got business on the top and a party on the bottom, right? Because if you come in your sessions and you I don't know, just make sure you got business on the top and party on the bottom. But thank you all so much for joining us for these last 8 weeks. We love you. We appreciate you. We thank you so much for your support. We hope we have helped make the shelter in place a little bit easier. Any final thoughts, you all, before we sign off? Don't forget, join us at 6 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Central, 9 p.m. Eastern on Tuesday to talk about the 1920 and 1930 census. And don't think just because you look through it all the time, you know everything. We picked up stuff going through these census records. This is the 3rd show we will have done in the Dawn of a New Decade series. We've already covered 1870, 1880, 1900, 1910. Now we're going to 1920 and 1930. That's on Tuesday night. Set your reminder, subscribe. Anything else, beautiful panel? I'm waiting for my red glasses to come so I can fit in with everybody.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. And all right, y'all. And oh Lord, Adrian Wells is in the chat room. There's a couple things. Somebody, I think Harpista 1979 says you show up in her DNA results, Angela. So you might want to follow up with her.
Yeah, she said I show up with an uncle or something.
With an uncle. And Adrian Wells mentioned I connect with some of his people, so I got to connect with him. There is a conversation about Adrian's peach cobbler and whether or not he is going to be mailing that to people, since we're not all getting together at Maggie. Now, I will have you all know that Adrian Wells, his peach cobbler is just
That's where you get the Ritz-Carlton out of Maggie.
Of Maggie, exactly. It's those kind of experiences where it's like, I mean, as much as I love, IGHR and Slig, you ain't getting peach cobbler at Slig. I'm just gonna tell you that right now. You ain't getting it. You ain't getting it. You ain't getting it. And if you do get it, it ain't Adrian's. Let me just put that out there. So people are asking if it's going to be shipped. We may just need to just like have a night, like when we have like brick wall night, everyone should just have like their favorite dessert sort of to commemorate, us not being together. So that's one of the aspects I'm going to miss. I'm going to miss being able to hug everyone, but I'm glad that we're going to
being
be
in my
able
house shoes.
Yes, in the lobby.
Yes.
So yeah, so we still have a show that we're supposed to do for Maggie. I don't know what we're going to do. I don't know. We'll have to see if we can figure that out. But yeah, thank you guys so much for having us, and we will see you on Tuesday night for the 1920 and 1930 census. Have